All right, so let's talk about one of the songs in more detail now. And I think that's up to you now.
Yes, Dukkha really was a interesting song compared to what I talked about earlier, how I approach songs, because this one was completely calculated, because it was the last song I wrote for the album, and I knew what happened before the song and I knew what would happen afterwards, and we're having Clinging before it, which is quite a expansive and epic and mid-tempo track, and we're having Boat after it, which is also like building up very slowly and also being a slow crawler, I could say. And so I knew I wanted a song in between which was more compact, faster, and I wanted this song to be shorter and more on point. And that's where it all started. And this song also really started with the first riff and with a choice of tempo. In the beginning, I often just started with a beat and I jammed to it, or I wrote something on an instrument and then tried to record it and find out which tempo would be appropriate. And with Dukkha, I just knew I wanted to go to extremes. I wanted it to be the fastest song on the album, and so I deliberately choose tempo 168. But anyway, when I'm writing parts, as I said, I often write everything down at the moment that I'm composing it, because I tend to forget stuff and get lost in details, and this helps me to have stuff already structured a bit. And I often write the songs in a slower tempo than you can hear them on the album, because I'm a noob on the guitar and always struggling and trying to make the best out of my abilities. And this ends up with I'm having a part written down in Guitar Pro, and after that I wonder how the hell am I gonna record it. And I guess this intro riff of Dukkha was the worst of that kind, because it was really pushing my limits. And nonetheless, I remember I sat down and recorded it one morning. I knew in the afternoon I would have a lot to do with teaching, and it was a good morning. It clicked in and I really went for it. But after 3 or 4 hours, when I had it recorded and edited, I was so terribly exhausted because it was so stressful.
So it was like sports.
Yes, it was very much like sports. And now comes the fun part, which I never told you. I recorded it and I listened to it, and I decided that it's too fast. And 168 just sounded a bit too exaggerated, but I had it recorded in that speed, and so I did something I know you usually hate me for. I just slowed it down to 162. And that's what you can hear on the album. I don't even know
what to say. You betrayed me.
Yes.
Okay, it's only 6 BPM, so I think I shouldn't say that. If I now say it's fine, you will do it again, and you will push the limits again, and I'm the one that has to deal with it. So I'm torn. But it worked. I mean, it worked.
Yeah, so let's just have a listen at what was the beginning of the song, just the Guitar Pro track. You're up for that? Okay, so here we go.
I mean, this is insanely fast. How did you approach writing it? Because you can't possibly play it faster than, I don't know, 80 BPM while trying or while figuring it out. How can I imagine you sitting there trying to get this together?
Well, as I said, I wrote it at a slower pace. I made the decision that I wanted it to sound a bit like thrash metal, and I wanted to mix this with odd meters, and so I came up with that what is it, 5-3, 5-7, 5-3, 5-8 setting, and I just filled it up with notes and watched for where could I go from one note to the next. So yeah, it's hard to describe. It's lots of trying things out and deleting them and trying something different, and then after 10 approaches go back to the first one.
Yes, because it's usually the best one, isn't it?
Yes, very often.
Okay,
So,
and
yes.
how does the song go on?
You want to hear the next part? There comes a little breather, and then comes a riff which I enjoy quite a bit. Okay, so that part was a bit of an homage to Metallica. I wondered how it would sound if Metallica went prog. So I just choose a simple 4/4 beat where you could imagine Lars Ulrich playing his standard rhythm on top. But I spiced it up by having some fixed elements and some shifting elements in it. So there are like little fragments which I move forward in time when they reappear during the riff. And there are other parts which stay the same. So it gets this, yeah, at least I think, pretty interesting and flowing approach. And you always think, now I've got it, and then something changes again.
That's so interesting because I don't know much about music theory, especially when it comes to odd meters and stuff. I'm a punk rock kiddie. And for me, it doesn't feel like being complicated. It has a flow which doesn't get interrupted by some overthinking approach. But when I look at it, I can clearly see that weird stuff is going on. So you did something quite magical there. You tricked me. I thought it's easy, but it's absolutely not.
Yeah, it's both at the same time. It's got a simple foundation, but yeah, I'm playing around a bit with it.
Right.
So my idea would be that we listen to the DI signal now, and then I would pass over to you to tell us a bit about how you picked the song up from there.
Okay, so now that we've seen it in Guitar Pro, why don't we head over to the DAW and see how you actually approached recording it? Because, I mean, recording and writing was basically the same process. It was not like that you recorded demos first and then you re-recorded for the album. Well, you did, but not intentionally, only because I told you to do so.
Yes, you're right. Because I don't have both the time and the patience to go for that route. So I always try to be prepared. And when something nice comes up, I try to record it instantly. Because it's sometimes, yeah, the magic of the moment. And it's hard to recreate that days or weeks later when you mentally have moved on to a next song or a different part.
So it's not only about time, it's also about capturing a moment and the mood you're in basically when you're recording a part.
Yes, totally.
Right. That's interesting because the music is so mathematical at times, but this is a very emotional approach. So you're trying to mix this again. You're all about mixing approaches when it comes to lyrics, when it comes to recording.
Yeah, I don't like standard approaches. That's not me.
All right, so let's take a look at Studio One, where you recorded in, because I had a license key.
That's right. Okay, so you want me to show you the naked DI signal of the part?
Yes, yeah. let's strip it down a bit. And I would also love to listen to the basic drums you used at first, so that we can deconstruct it a bit.
Okay, so I show you the drums first.
What did you use
yeah.
for the drums while recording the song?
When I'm demoing stuff, I'm tending to write in Get Good Drums Invasion, and I've got like a template which consists of the Invasion kit and the Modern and Massive kit. And let's see if we show everything. That's what it looks like. And I love to have options, as you can see.
Clearly.
I'm still waiting for the GGD Terry Bozzio kit to be released, but that might remain a dream. So let's hide everything we're not using. So that's what the basic drums sound like. So on.
It's interesting because it doesn't sound bad at all, but it just didn't really work for me while doing the mix. So we had to basically redo the drum sounds, and we will talk about that later.
Okay, so let's head over to the guitars without any plugins on them. They sound like that.
How much editing is in there?
Quite a bit. I basically edit everything, but I try to record stuff which needs very, very little editing. So I'm recording in quite small chunks, maybe a bar, maybe two. And I move around in the end every single note. I don't try to make them fit perfectly, but I want to get pretty close to, more or less technical sounding style.
Yeah, I think that's an approach that we figured out maybe together a bit, because we talked about editing quite a lot. And I think it turned out very, very well, because it doesn't sound artificial or clinical. But it's very tight.
Yes, that's what I was aiming for. And as you know, we had quite a way to walk to get there, because first I started with editing with time stretch function, and it always sounded a bit like, it's squeezed and expanded, and it never sounded really punchy and on point. So I had to relearn everything and learn how to slip edit stuff, and that's when things started to sound well.
Yeah, that made a huge difference, because it didn't destroy the transients and from the pick attack. And the first versions sounded quite lifeless compared to what we have now.
Yes. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, so show us the sound with your MSIM on it, because that's still not what we used on the record.
No, actually I went for a mix of two different MSIMs. I used the Fortin Kelly suite on the right channel, and the what's it called, Omega Granifier on the other side with Fortin. What is in front of it? The grind pedal. And so that's what it sounded in my DAW. That's actually quite a nice sound for a Megadeth album.
That's actually not too bad. Yeah, it in the end, I think it wouldn't really fit the whole album. It sounds a bit too thrashy, maybe.
Yes,
Um,
totally.
but it's really not bad. Okay, so let's talk about the other elements in the song. It's way more than just this maniac intro. We could maybe look at the synth or whatever you want to show.
Yes, I think we stay with this part with the lovely name Matt Butchery. So this intro, it's basically rhythm guitar, drum, bass, and some keyboard sounds on top of it. So we had the drums, and I'll add the bass and the guitars so that you've got a feeling how the foundation is sounding. So here we go. Okay, so as you said before, it sounds quite like a thrash metal song, and I wanted to expand on that and add some different sort of flavor. And the first thing I came up with was adding a marimba, which felt
Makes
completely
no
off.
sense at all, but it does.
No, not no sense at all. But that's how I approach things. I write something, or often I just copy something from a different part, like a bass line or whatever, or I import the Guitar Pro MIDI file. So I've got something to work with, and then I just experiment with sounds, and I came up with that one. And I really
It sounds a
like
bit
that.
like a typewriter on steroids.
Yes, I actually had that picture in mind of a typewriter, and it adds that nice high end to the low guitars. And so if you combine it, it's got that hollow high end, which I really liked.
And not only the high end, but also the attack. I think this sound ended up on the album as well. I think we didn't change it later because it's so percussive that it really comes through the whole notes going on at basically the same time.
Yeah, I felt the same. And apart from that, I just added my beloved Hammond organ and another patch, which just filled the whole thing up. So probably I'll show you first. The first one sounds like that. So just a bit of mystery inserted here, and combined with this with the Hammond, it sounds like this. Might be from any old horror movie. Yeah, and with the marimba. Yes, so that's what's basically going on in the background.
So we can take a look at the final mix in a second to see how this ended up in there, because it was quite a challenge to try to have it at least somehow audible, because there are so many things going on at the same time, and it's always hard to decide what's winning and what is just basically underlying.
I can imagine that. And I feel you. I totally feel you. When I'm writing, I'm just going for it. And if I think it needs 20 layers, it gets 20 layers. And I don't worry about how this might work out in a mix afterwards.
Which is great, because I mean, of course I hate you, but I also love you because it gives me a huge learning opportunity. You don't have that every day.